As she was facilitating herself, she felt something drop, followed by the call of a child. Ness' eyes sparkled as she attempted to truly understand the reason why a child would be crying behind her. She stood up and, to her surprise, and saw that she had brought forth a wonderful child. Young lady, some time ago, there carried on with an extremely fat lady who lived alone in a tiny town. Her name was NENE, and individuals ridiculed her as a result of how fat she was and would consume huge amounts of food in a day. And this made the locals call her Robo, which was a well-known name given to fat, very individuals, and will march the town as kids marched behind her reciting the name Robo. More than once they did this, since they realized that Yen would not be able to pursue them due to her weight. One night after Yen completed the process of consuming her supper, she fell into an exceptionally profound rest and was awoken by an exceptionally sharp torment in her stomach and recoiled in torment as she raced to the bramble to ease herself. As she was facilitating herself, she felt something drop, followed by the call of a child. N's eye sparkled as she attempted to wrap her head around why a child would be crying behind her. She stood up and, to her wonder, and saw that she had brought forth a wonderful child. Young lady, how can this be conceivable? She thought to herself, as she never realized that she was pregnant. Hurried into her heart with the child. She could hardly imagine how she was currently a mother, as nothing prearranged her for this second in her existence, with her heart palpitating and her infant crying as loud as possible, and had no other choice, however, to acknowledge the way that she was presently a mother. As time went on, and got its hang, and seen how joined she was to her infant, before long the fresh insight about N's marvelous child spread around the town, and individuals chuckled, saying that N likely ate the child and crapped it out, as they proved unable trust that any man in his right detects would maintain that anything should do with a fat lady like N. Paid no brain to the locals. As she channeled all her adoration to her girl, she invested her entire energy nestling her little one, as this brought her such an excess of happiness that she won't ever be aware existed anyway. N's happiness was stopped one morning when she awakened and took note that she had rested on her child, choking out her to death, and froze for a few minutes as she conveyed her child's dead body. She shook her child consistently, expecting a wonder to occur, yet her valuable child was at that point gone, and unfit to bear the aggravation turned to eating wildly. She would eat herself to rest, generally speaking. And before she knew what was occurring, she had started to put on more weight and found it hard to pardon herself for the deficiency of her little girl, as she faulted herself for what occurred and decided to eat herself to death. The locals didn't make things simple for her, as they accused her for killing her own girl, unfit to bear life any longer, and chose one night to end it all. She went to the place where she covered her child, young lady, and started to sob, and wept hysterically, and didn't see when she works off by the grave, sighed a couple of hours after the fact, and awakened. What's more, saw that she was sleeping in her heart. She attempted to grasp how she gotten back, and understood that she had been dreaming from the beginning. All that she thought happened was each of the fantasy, as she never had a child in any case, and couldn't accept the obvious reality. She hurried off to where she covered her little girl, and saw that nobody was covered there at that time, and made up her brain to lose some weight, as she couldn't tolerate letting what occurred in the fantasy to happen in actuality, and started to go for strolls around the town, and radically decreased her food consumption. It was not a simple choice for her to make, however, and decided to shed pounds, as she dreaded what will befall her if she forged ahead with this way, in spite of the residents ridiculing all her given opportunity, and overlooked their abuses, and zeroed in on losing her unreasonable weight. One day, while N was taking her standard thing, strolls, she ran over two pregnant ladies who giggled at her maxim that regardless of whether she strolls from one mark of the earth to the other, she could never get thinner, as she was destined to be fat. This broken who felt deterred at the way that she had not seen any distinction in her body size, Since she began her works her anyway, something continued to push her not to surrender, and she chose to disregard the young ladies and forgia ahead with her stroll on her way and ran over a visually impaired elderly person who was shouting for help. She had lost her way and required help to think that she is way home. Nobody was able to help the visually impaired old lady as they overlooked her cries and strolled past her, and unfit to overlook the blind elderly person, moved toward her and elected to bring her back home. The visually impaired lady was so appreciative to N for being so kind to her. On their way, the visually impaired lady could detect that something was disturbing. So she asked what it was, and N described how the residents generally giggled, furthermore, derided her due to her weight, and likewise the way in which hard she had attempted to lose the weight with next to no karma, and the visually impaired elderly person told her not to surrender since her advancement was nearer than she thought, and strolled with the elderly person for some time and showed up a tiny H in the woodland. When they showed up, the elderly person advised N to stand by as she strolled into her heart and got back with an apple. She let N know that the apple was a gift for her graciousness, and N said thanks to the elderly person. As she got back with the apple, N was incredibly ravenous, wry, and depleted by then, and chose to eat the elderly person's apple, as that was the main food she had at home. Later, eating the apple, N chose to sleep, as she was depleted from her day's work. Following a few hours of dozing, and woke up and saw that she had changed. She was, as of now, not fat, and believed that she was dreaming. Little did she know that the apple, the elderly person, all through the town, and the equivalent individuals who taunted and scorned her for her weight were presently flabbergasted by her extraordinary change. They couldn't accept their eyes as N, who was once known as, or Robble, remained before them, no more troubled by the weight that had characterized her for such a long time, and was currently the most lovely lady in the town. What not the young ladies who once taunted her, begrudged her excellence, and wished to resemble her. She grabbed the eye of the relative multitude of men in the town who all needed to wed her. Furthermore, N couldn't completely accept that how quick her life changed from being the most derided lady in the town to being the most begrudged lady as the days went by. N chosen to go, looking for the visually impaired old lady to say thanks to her. However, when she showed up the woods, she saw that the old lady's heart was mysteriously gone and gotten back, confounded as she pondered who the visually impaired elderly person was. That was the ticket. N's life improved as she carried on with the leftover of her life, free from ridicule and bitterness. The enchanted apple not just changed her, truly, yet additionally achieved a positive change. In her point of view, the example to be gained from this story is that no condition in life is super durable. Figure out how to be caring to others, no matter the circumstance. You get yourself as a little thoughtful gesture can go a long way in saving an individual's life. 2. Figure out how to be trust in yourself and persist while endeavoring to be awesome form of yourself. Don't permit what others contemplate you to characterize you, as nobody knows you more than you know yourself. I genuinely want to believe that you partook in the story. Like, buy in, and leave a remark. It assists us with developing our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.